Hello guys, this is me, your teacher again. I'm going to explain you the second part of passive voice, which is the first part of the unit 5 we saw last class, right? So passive voice, we know what is the use of passive voice, how do we use it, when do we use it. We know that. If you don't know, you can check out the last video I sent you before this video, so you can click them then and see what is passive voice, right? But we're going to add two tenses, different tenses to this new topic, right? So, passive voice. The first one is, well, we saw present simple, we saw present past simple. Now we're gonna see present continuous. But before we see present continuous in passive voice, we have to know when we have to use present continuous, right? So we use present continuous to talk about things that are happening now. For example, Julie is sleeping at the moment. Now, at the moment, currently, yeah. Those are words that help you to know when to use present continuous, right? Temporary situation. I'm staying with my friend for a few days. In that moment, I'm doing something, but that will change, right? Annoying habits, for example, you're always losing your keys. Yeah, something that annoys you, that is bad habits. Yeah, you're always losing your keys. You're always losing your exam, or you're always doing anything, right? Well, those are like, well, let's continue. Definite future plans. You have to know that this is for the near future, right? This is not really later, it's probably in the same day but later. For example, I'm meeting my father later. I'm meeting, well, probably is this day, well, or this weekend, yeah, probably a really near future. Changing situation, the weather is improving. We know that the weather is not good, but the weather is improving slowly, so that is changing, right? So those are the uses of present continuous. So now with the structure. Active, carpenter is repairing the table. Carpenter is the subject of the person is doing the action. Is repairing, well, is in this case is the verb auxiliary, which is the verb to be, is, am, or are. Also, the verb with ing, repairing, and object, the table, right? Well, and we have the complement after that. So what we do is pass the object in the first part here, the table, verb to be, is, being, always put the being, right? That being is mandatory in passive voice. Verb in past participle repaired by the comforter, well, and the complement, but in this case we don't have complements. In negative is the same, but you add the not to the verb to be. So is not, you can contract it into isn't, or you can contract it, you can contract am, so, well, or are, and, yeah, and that's for negative. In the same in passive, so you add the not to the isn't, right? Then in questions, what we do in active voice is to pass the verb to be, which is the auxiliary, at the beginning. Is he doing your job right now? So the same, we pass the object, which is your job, but we pass the verb auxiliary, the auxiliary verb at the beginning. Is your job? Then we add being, verb in past participle down by him, which is the subject here, he. Right now, we had the structure and the question mark, right? Verb to be, object, which is your job, being, verb in past participle done, subject by him, which is he, complement. Right now, and question mark. Okay, now we're moving to present perfect. But again, before we know present perfect in passive voice, we have to talk about the uses of present perfect, right? So is present perfect more for things that are unfinished, right? So things that started in the past, but you haven't finished them in the present. But it's more to talk about how long have you done that. For example, I've known Karen since 1994. Yeah, you will never stop doing that, right? She has lived in London for 3 years, right? She's in London right now, so she has lived in London for 3 years. So it is more used with dates, right? For 10 years. Well, those are things that probably are like a process, like a gap in time, like a period of time you've been doing something, right? Or you've done something like living in a place or something like that. Unfinished finished act, for example, unfinished time work, something that you haven't doing any time in a period of time. For example, this month I haven't seen her in this month. I haven't seen her this week. I haven't seen her today, right? Present result. I've lost my keys, so I can get into my house, right? Probably you have passed, so or something has passed before you can do anything. So you talk about the present result. You can also talk about the news and the recent events. For example, the Queen has given a speech, right? Also, a life experience. I've been to Tokyo, right? Those are things that are finished. Okay, but that's well, some extra information before we move to passive voice. They have cleaned the clinic. The clinic has been cleaned by them. So you have the object, you move it to the beginning, you add has or have, right? Depending on the case, has, have. Then you add the being, verb in past participle, oh, I'm sorry, verb in past participle, subject, which is by them, and the complement. In this case, we don't have any. The same happens with the negative. You add the not to the auxiliary have or has. Right? In this case, they haven't cleaned the clinic. In the same in passive voice, the clinic hasn't or has not been cleaned by them, right? So we have different. Is that is the same like in present continuous, but in this case, the auxiliary is different, right? And in questions, when in questions it happens the same. You move the auxiliary to the beginning, right? In active, we do it, have they clean the clinic, right? The same happens in passive. You pass the auxiliary to the beginning, then you put the object, then being cleaned by them. So you have the exertion here has, object, or has or have, right? Object, being, past participle, subject, and complement. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. Don't forget to review the irregular verbs. That's really important. Please, please do the activities I've prepared for you. Check them out. If you have questions, email me. Don't worry about it, and I will try to answer you. And see you next class.